Okay, I think we're live.
So, greetings everybody. Good to see you again. Me, Stephen Parker, the CEO of Crypterium, and our friend Austin, CEO. So, obviously, Austin gave you an update in December about our first quarter plans and any issues that we had at that time. So, today we'll continue to give you an update. Austin will go through where we are on our white label solution, which should give us some good market opportunities around more token usage, about where we are on our cards, and obviously the exciting news of reissuing the UnionPay global card. And also I shall talk a bit about some of the regulatory challenges which kicked off a lot with Facebook and Libra, and we have a lot going on around the world. I've been in this role now for about 12 months, and what are the lessons? I think one of the lessons is that it's very difficult to actually deliver things within this industry on time. There's still a lot of regulation around, there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I think whether you're looking at a Revolut, Telegram, or a Crypterium, everything takes longer. We all try hard to launch things as quickly as possible, but I think we're learning that we have overestimated somewhat a bit on some of the speed to which we can deliver things, and some of our partners have unfortunately not quite lived up to what we expected from them. So that's a big lesson. The other, I think, is that it is really important for us to test and retest, and we'll talk a little bit later about customer security, which we take really, really seriously. A lot of hacking going on around cybersecurity threats for all players, and that means that we need to be extra specially careful when we launch products and make sure they really are concrete, hard, protected, and robust. So I think it's a disappointment that indeed we're not launching as quickly as we'd like to be. But I think we have some exciting things going on. We're still a really exciting proposition, and Austin can update you now on some of our new launches and where we are on things that we've announced before. In the meantime, hi Brazil, happy to see you online.
Okay, so as Stephen mentioned back in December, I said it was going to be a 5-minute video, ended up being a 20-minute video, so I will try to be a bit briefer this time. But the sort of key things that we're focused on right now are card issuance and white label. We do have some other products and other services, and as Stephen mentioned, we will cover that. So let me focus first of all on white label and what we mean by white label. So if you look back what's traditionally happened in this industry, everybody's gone after the individual customer, whether it be an exchange, whether it be a digital wallet, we've all gone after the individual customer. There's been quite a few players that have entered the market and done very little and then sort of exited the market. But there is definite interest, and even those companies that have always stayed sort of outside the crypto space are showing interest in the crypto space, but do they really have the time, capacity, interest to really build their own application? So what we saw initially was that we would build our own B2C model, or our business to customer direct model, and that's been reasonably successful. As you know, we've issued 15,000 cards of the Co-Card, our partner for UnionPay. We've got a large number of users for our exchange functions, etc. But it isn't that easy right now to attract brand new customers. Of course, we've got word of mouth, we've got we can have customer competitions and referral programs, etc. But the quickest and let's say the most dynamic approach would be to work with mass players who want to be in the crypto space but don't want to have to go through tens of millions of dollars of building their capability. So we've built a white label function, and what that means is there are 2 avenues that we can run with white label. The first one is the simplest one for everybody to understand. Imagine the Crypterium app but with somebody else's branding all over it. So you would download it from the App Store or from the Google Play Store or wherever you get your apps, and it would have somebody else's name on, coffee.com or whatever it is. It really doesn't make any difference as long as they have a significant user base. Now that particular partner will have all access to all our functionality, and when a customer goes into the application, they just won't realize they're working with Crypterium. There will probably be a small comment down at the bottom saying, powered by Crypterium or something like that, so that we keep our brand knowledge somewhere within the application. But as far as they're concerned, they are working with their existing app provider. Now, there are apps out there websites, apps, companies with 5-10 million users. Now, we don't anticipate all of those users being able to download our application and wanting to use our application. But we work on a relatively conservative model that says 5% of the typical platform users are active, and if we could just attract 5% of that 5%, we get a significant user base. So we choose partners that have a minimum size and a minimum active user base, and then we work on a sort of simple mathematical model. And every single one of our partners that we're working with right now has, when you do that maths, at least a 5,000 active user base that we would attract. Now, as I said, it's 5% of 5%, so we're talking millions in terms of how many users that application has. Now, we are currently working with 3 partners testing this concept. There are 2 types of tests. The first test is an internal test with the staff, with the trusted user base, and then the second test is when they go completely live. Now, the model that we operate here is a 2-fold model in that there is a fee for an integration. So first of all, we cover our costs. We don't take a big leap of faith that this particular partner will just generate new users for us. There is a fee for the integration. So we cover all our costs. And then there's a relatively simple revenue sharing model once we've got that user base. And of course, by using a revenue sharing model, our partner is also motivated to promote the application as much as possible. So first of all, they've paid a fee, and it's not an insignificant fee for the application. So 1, we know that they are very interested. And 2, once they've paid that fee and we've gone white label for them, they then will share in whatever revenue. So again, there is a second interest. So that's model number 1. Model number 2 is to integrate some of our services inside an existing application. The easiest way to sort of think about that would be, let's say that you went onto a banking application and suddenly there was a crypto function inside that banking application. That crypto function would not be being provided by the bank, it would be buying, in this example, from Crypterium, although of course somebody else might be able to do that on our behalf.
So this is the sort of widget, right?
Yeah, it's a widget inside an existing application. So we have 2 separate models and we're testing both those models. Now, as I said, right now, it's not that easy or cheap to go out and find a new user base. Facebook makes it difficult. You can't really do the traditional advertising anymore under Google, etc. So this for us is a fantastic path. Now, the type of companies that we're interested in, you can imagine them yourself. Exchanges that don't have a crypto application in sort of the functionality that we do. Crypto websites, financial services websites, or even just high integration news websites, anything like that which has a very significant user base. And as I said, we've got 3 in final test now. So that really goes properly live middle of March. So all testing will be ready middle of March. We're also interested in, let's say, additional tokens in that respect. So let's say, for sake of argument, we did an agreement with a significant token. That token would be added to the wallet, and suddenly that wallet is a very good function for that token to promote its own services. So that is a core path for us. It's taking a lot of our energy. Now, providing a simple white label, I use the phrase simple in that that's a little bit easier in that it's just a branding around an existing label, but everything still has to be segregated behind the scenes because, as I said, there's revenue sharing, there are different, maybe there's a slightly different communication process that's been requested by the application. So it's not as simple as it sounds, and then the widget approach inside another application is a slightly different model, but in that case, we might not use every single one of our features, and again, there's an additional layer of work. So it's quite time-consuming. There is always the KYC element, there's all the fraud detection elements. All of those things have to be replicated and brought in. But we're very confident that this, let's say within a 12-month window, could easily generate several 100,000 active users for us. Not several hundred active users, but several 100,000 active users.
Basically gives a scale. Right?
It gives a scale very quickly relative, say, to a direct-to-customer model. And I think that's something you're really not going to see much about. Once we're very comfortable with the live testing, we will then sort of go into the press. Stephen or myself or another member of the team will do a number of interviews. We've already got something like a lead generation team of about 30 that we're very close to doing agreements with. And I think our issue here will not be about finding new customers. It'll be about how many customers can we cope with at any one time and still deliver a very good service. So that is core. And then whilst all that is happening, inside the application, the card is key. We've talked about this many times. Now, the card itself is sometimes problematic in that we have to work with partners. We do not issue the cards ourselves. I'm sure we've spoken about this in the past. We don't issue our own plastic. We have to work with other companies that have authority to issue plastic, either on behalf of Visa, MasterCard, UnionPay, etc. So there's always complications with that. But the card is core. Now, even if people don't use the card, the application needs to have a fully functioning card capability. And right now, as you know, we have a UnionPay capability. We went with UnionPay on day one, and we're going to stick with UnionPay for the reason that it is a global card. And in the scenario I have just given, which is an application that could have, let's say, 1 million users, those 1 million users will be in Brazil or Argentina or the US or Europe. They're not in one location. And we cannot deliver a white label solution to a partner and say, oh, by the way, this application can only be used, for sake of argument, in North America. It's not attractive to in fact, every single application. There are very few applications out there now which are just one country or one region of the world specific. So the UnionPay card is critical to us. We launched with the UnionPay. It worked. It didn't work as well as we hoped it would work. A lot of the features weren't as simple. The loading process was taking too long. The communication process after a transaction wasn't as smooth as it should be. And a lot of this information, as I said, comes from our partners. So we worked with UnionPay to find a new partner. We're very happy with what we've achieved. We've now got a virtual card. And I will just talk a little bit about how that virtual card works. In that, for the partner, issuing a virtual card is roughly the same cost for them, apart from the physical plastic itself. So it's not just a click of a button and there's no cost for a partner. There is a cost because they have to have segregated accounts. They have to do certain transactions on an account every single month. So we've had to negotiate with our partner a model that works. And the model that works for us, and this is what we'll apply in the white label solution and with inside our application going forward, is really what I think which is the most simple. You download the application. Inside the application is a banking card. It sits there. It is activated as soon as you load it. So the card is sitting there in every single person's application, and it's a virtual card. As soon as you load it, it is activated. There will be a small fee, let's say $3 or whatever it is, to activate the card, and we just take that from the initial load. So you don't have to pay a fee and then load it. You load it with $100 and we allocate 97 or whatever it is, and that pays our partner for the activation of the card. And then if the customer wants a plastic as well, they can have a plastic. And that makes a huge difference for us because that means that every user can just simply test it out. Okay, maybe I'm not comfortable enough yet to get a full plastic card, but I can load $20 onto my virtual card and just see how it works. So that's what's happening right now. And then on top of that, we also recognize the fact that UnionPay isn't perfect for everybody. I am in the UK, Stephen is in the UK. In London, there is quite a lot of places that take UnionPay, but I live up in Scotland, and a lot of the time, there's nowhere I can use UnionPay. Yes, I can take money out of an ATM, but if I went into the corner newsagents or tobacconists or whatever you call them, they're not going to take UnionPay. So we need to also issue a Visa card or a MasterCard. Now, traditionally, MasterCard has been very difficult in this space, and although they are slowly moving into the crypto space, Visa has been much more proactive. So we are launching our own Visa partnership within the next month. I'm not going to give an exact date because when I say launch, that will be our test launch. It won't be available for every single person. It would be a very limited supply to, again, test it out. But we have a full Visa partner that will go live within the nearest future. Let's say within 4 to 6 weeks, we will be live with Visa issuance. Now, again, it causes a slight complication because I think, I might be wrong, but I think we will be the only crypto-based company that gives customers a choice of the type of card. So you will go inside our application, and now you can activate a UnionPay card if you're maybe in China or in Thailand or wherever you find UnionPay very useful. Or if you're in Europe, in my case, you can activate the Visa card, or you can activate both. It's up to you. So you'll have both cards. The Visa card will eventually have exactly the same logic as I've just described for the UnionPay card. Visa will again have an ability to have a virtual card. That may come about 2 months after we've just tested the plastic. I know it sounds odd, but it's easier to test plastic than it is to test the virtual card. So we will test it first properly with the plastic, and then we'll test it with the virtual card. Now, what is also very interesting, and I know some people have asked me this, and I've always said no chance, is our Visa partner has promised to deliver Apple Pay and Google Pay this summer. Now, based on what Stephen already said, if they say the summer, maybe it means the autumn or the winter, but they have a Apple Pay and Google Pay capability. So we believe that if we can offer a Visa card and a UnionPay card, a virtual card for both, and on the Visa space we could do Apple Pay or Google Pay, all within the next 12-month window. And all of this is integrated with inside a white label solution that is offered to significant third parties. It is a very attractive value proposition. And that's really the core of what we're focused on.
For this year.
For this year. I mean, for this, let's say, for this next 3-4 month period, that we do have lots of other products, and we'll talk about them maybe in a minute, but that is the core. And getting that run smoothly and properly is more important than launching, let's say, a lending option or a saving option or an IBAN option. We've got to get that part working, because if the cards don't work inside the white label solution, the product isn't really an all singing, all dancing product, because a lot of these partners, what they want to do is be able to pay crypto to their user base, whether it's a reward model, whether it's a salary, and allow that person to effectively spend that money in any way they wish. And if the card doesn't work, then we limit the functionality. So that is a number one core.
Yeah, it's the most important off-ramp or getting money out of the wallet solution, really.
Absolutely. So that's, that is quite critical. Within all this, the crypto space is not stagnant in terms of its regulation. There's new regulation popping up all over the place. And we've promised to do certain things with relation to issuing of cards, etc., but happen to coincide with changes in regulation for the Know Your Customer requirements for Europe and things like that. So we've had to make some changes. So maybe, Stephen, you can explain what's going on there.
Sure, and I think there's some other functionality we're introducing very shortly, which is today we have payout to MasterCard. And we're going to introduce payout to Visa very shortly. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I missed that. That's very, very valid. So right now you can pay to a MasterCard, and we've been able to do that for 6 months. And please test that. I use that quite a lot. It takes seconds for the transaction to go through. It's not days, it's seconds for a transaction. So if you send money from your crypto account to somebody's MasterCard, even if it's your own MasterCard, which in reality most people are sending the money to their own MasterCard, it takes seconds. And it's a very efficient way, effectively, of cashing out your crypto, if that's what you want to do. But we've never been able to do it with Visa cards. And right now we've got that capability in the Visa card application. The addition is imminent, maybe this week, maybe next week, or within a very short period of time. So that means you can either pay a Visa or a MasterCard. Okay, we can't do American Express, we can't do UnionPay, but really if we issue a UnionPay card, we issue a Visa card, and you can pay out to Visa and MasterCard, that's a pretty good mix.
It is, indeed. So I think on the product front, lots of exciting stuff still happening and trying to improve what we have. Regulatory front. So as we all know, regulators got very excited about cryptocurrency, particularly when Mr. Zuckerberg said he was going to issue his own currency. And that really, I think, has triggered regulators all around the world to become much more focused on how they regulate cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency players. So more and more markets are introducing licenses, for example, Germany, Holland, etc. And one other big thing that has happened in January of this year was that the new Anti-Money Laundering 5 directive, AML5D for all the geeks, was introduced in the EU, which covers all cryptocurrencies as well as the normal fiat or normal everyday currency. So very important that we completely applied that we were robust. So we put that into place as needed on the 10th of January. I see somebody here said that we have KYC problems. Well, not that we are aware of. So we are applying the sort of limits that we now need to apply for KYC. There's very much stricter controls now in terms of onboarding customers around crypto if you're in the EU. And so we've put those in place. It is risk-based, so it will depend where you apply, whether you're counted by the EU as a high-risk country or not, and some of the sorts of transactions you're doing. But our KYC is up and running. We use Jumio. It's working well. We monitor it extremely closely and make sure that we take customers through that whole onboarding path as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So we're making sure that we are robust, that we apply fully all the regulations that are in place. We have looked at where we should be based regulatory-wise, and for the moment we feel that we have licenses in Estonia, we have a key base here, we are going to register under the new Financial Conduct Authority regulations this year
in the
UK, which obviously for the moment is completely passportable, EU-wide, etc. That is the best credible place to be with a regulator, FCA in the UK, who has an extremely good reputation for making sure that the market is playing the best way they can. So I think there was a question earlier about are we going to apply for an e-money license? E-money license allows you to have normal everyday currency on your wallet. We're looking at it, we continue to look at it. We may well try to introduce normal currencies during the year. It's not a top priority. The top priority, as Austin talked about, was cards and white label solution. We don't have to have a license. We can do it through providers. There are people like Currency Cloud, for example, who are well-known providers in this space. So no, we're not going to apply at this stage for an e-money license, but we will be fully FCA regulated and registered. So exciting news, I know, but making sure that we're all really robust and in the best jurisdiction. One thing we will say to all of our clients, though, is be very careful about hacks and fraudsters. Lots of people out there, normal bank accounts and all the rest, where they try phishing, they're trying to get into your account. So as you know, we now have two-factor authentication. Please switch it on your wallet so that basically you have to have a second factor to be able to do something in your wallet. I know it makes it more clunky, but it makes it safer for you too. And many banks actually in the UK, you're now obliged to do that. So that's one of the things that we would encourage you to use in terms of our functionality. And again, watch out for those fraudsters.
Okay, good. Just to reiterate what Stephen said about the having fiat currency within the wallet, this is something that we look at regularly, and whether we need a license to do that. Now, if we did it under our own license, of course, makes life much easier, but it's not a simple process. It's a very expensive process and puts all sorts of other restrictions on us, which maybe are good, maybe are bad. So, but there are many partners out there that work with you, and Stephen mentioned a couple. So if we do want to issue, let's say, an IBAN capability with inside our wallet, we do not need our own license. That's the key point here. There are many ways that we can do that. It remains within our target remit, but until we got those other things sorted out, I've already mentioned, it is not the number one thing. We don't think it would make a fundamental difference. So the way I would liken it, there are exchanges out there very big exchanges that still do not offer a fiat currency capability. You can trade between a token and Bitcoin or Bitcoin and Ether, but there's still no, or a stable coin, but there's no fiat currency. And those exchanges carry on doing very nicely. So it's obviously a useful factor, but it's not the number one factor. But we are adding a couple of fiat currency related matters which I think would be interesting. So the first thing is the acquisition of crypto. We've been able to do that inside our application for quite some time. We call it acquiring. So people can acquire crypto using a payment card. Now, again, as with almost everything with inside a financial institution, we work with a lot of partners, and we've been working with a smaller number of acquirers in the recent past, and those acquirers obviously have their own, let's say, capabilities, functionalities, and acceptance limits. The more acquirers you work with, the more capable you can be. So let me give you an example. Let's say we have an acquirer that is based in Germany, and somebody from India tries to buy some cryptocurrency and it goes through an acquirer that is in Germany. They're going to look at that with more suspicion than they would do with a German acquisition. So a German trying to buy cryptocurrency through a German acquirer using a German payment card has a much lower level of risk than, say, the same for India or Brazil, since there's several people here popped up and said hello from Brazil. So we have what we're calling sort of a cascade capability. We're launching a cascade capability where we can now work with hundreds of acquirers if we so wish. We've built basically a tool that will work with multiple acquirers, so that wherever the person is coming from or whatever type of card they've got, our software will predict where is the most appropriate direction for that particular acquisition to go through. Now, we will still have a lot of rejections because, unfortunately, in this space, there's still a lot of people that have fraudulent activities and they wish to cheat us. But if you put those people to one side, unfortunately, in the first scenario I gave, it meant a lot of people who were not fraudulent may not have been able to buy in when they really should have been able to, because of a simple, as I say, glitch. The German system says I don't like Indian customers, or the Indian system says I don't like German customers, whatever. So we're now introducing the cascading system. That is pretty much ready and is going to be live within a few days. You won't see any difference inside the site. But it just means
less friction on transactions.
Lot less friction, lot less challenge, and a significantly higher percentage of acceptance rates. We would hope that maybe as many as 4 out of 5 transactions would go through with the cascade capability, whereas probably less than half of transactions can go through when you really work with a small number of acquirers. Now, we had to do it that path, by the way. Sorry to harbour on this. You can't go full cascade on day one because you have to have in place all your fraud detection models, etc., before you can go for full cascade, because the partners just won't accept you. If we said on day one to every single acquirer out there, please accept us, and by the way, we'll just send you what we feel like, they would just say no. You have to send us everything or nothing. But now that we've got the scale, we've got the capability, we now have a little bit more leverage in that space. So that is another capability that we're adding or enhancing.
We've got a couple of questions here on cards. So when will we finish activation of UnionPay virtual cards for existing users? I think we talked about that this morning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the card activation program is it's really finished almost as far as we're concerned, but we are still being hampered by individuals. So the virtual card activation, if somebody hasn't had that activated yet, then it's today or tomorrow or within 24 hours. That is really at the tail end of that particular transaction. With regards to the plastic cards, we didn't just want to send them out to the original address. So people move house, they change apartments, whatever it is. So just because you applied for the card 12 months ago with one address, we're not just going to send them out to that exactly the same address. So we've written to everyone, said, please provide us with an updated address. If you provided that updated address, then the card has been issued. If you didn't, the card hasn't been issued. However, we have been told a few people have not received their emails to say what I've just said, give us a new address. So we are double checking on that. Practically, this process is finished, except a few, let's say, people that have received an email and haven't provided the details, or just not got round to it yet, and maybe there's a few people that just haven't received that email, which we're checking. By the time we finish, it's about 15,000 cards that we've issued. I think we've published that on our website. It's a good number. I know it doesn't sound like 15 million, but 15,000 is a good number. And then when we move into the B2B and the other things, we would hope that to take that up to hundreds of thousands. That would be our goal. We will not be issuing brand new cards, however, for maybe another 2 weeks or so. And the reason for that, it's coinciding with a number of changes to the KYC process. It just made sense that everything was done at exactly the same time. So new card issuance, it's not on hold because we never started it. It just won't be launched for about another couple of weeks. Another question on savings products here we've had. The savings product, I've mentioned this many times. I am a huge fan of adding a savings feature to the application, and it is not that complicated to do. The biggest issue we've always faced is the security, and I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. The only way you earn interest on a savings account is if someone is using those savings for their purposes. So if a bank is paying you interest, they are taking your money and they are lending it to someone. So they will pay you 2% interest, but they lend it to someone at 6% or whatever. And then that's the business model, and it's exactly the same with the crypto space. So we need to find a partner that we're very comfortable with. So on the one hand, for example, you're probably aware of Celsius. Celsius, quite a big company, would love to integrate with companies like ourselves and pay quite a nice interest rate. You can get 5.5% on Bitcoin, or pay I think 7 or 8% on a US dollar coin. But the problem for me is, how do they pay 8% interest on a US dollar coin? I mean, how are they physically doing that? If a bank can only pay 1.5% on a dollar deposit, how can they pay 8% on a US dollar coin? So it's because they're lending it to a particular type of environment whereby they were going to be able to charge a higher rate of interest to lend it, and therefore with that comes risk. So this is not a comment, by the way, against Celsius. I'm just using it as an example. On the other end of the scale are companies like BitGo. Now, BitGo are a custody service, and sometimes people just need to leverage against a certain activity. And what that means is they need to show that they have a certain amount of capital. And it doesn't have to be used for anything at all. So they may borrow, say, some Bitcoin from BitGo, but it doesn't actually have to do anything. Now, that type of lending pays a much lower interest rate, and that may pay 2% or 2.5% or something like that. So we are capable of bringing into the application savings capability, but I personally am favoring the much lower interest rate, but practically zero risk. Now, there will be applications out there that can do significantly higher interest rate. You can take your Bitcoin out of our wallet and go and stick it in that wallet and hope for the best. Now, maybe it's 99% safe, but there's that 1% element that worries me. If you stick it in something like BitGo, it's 99.99% safe. And for me, that's the type of thing that we are focused on. So once we've got through the cards, once we've got through the white label, the KYC, the other things, it's quite likely you would see us doing something on the savings, but don't get super excited and suddenly expect to get 7% interest on your deposit. It is going to be much more in the, we're going to go very safe. But for me personally, if someone said to me, here's a choice, just tick this box that says, do you want to earn interest on your account or not? The account would be completely flexible. You can take it out whenever you want. Maybe there'd be a 24-hour window or something like that, but nothing more than that, and the interest would be earned daily or not. And if someone says, well, you're going to get 2% or 0, I'd be quite comfortable with that 2% model if I knew it was completely safe. And that's the type of path we are going down. Now, I can't guarantee when we will launch it, and I can't even guarantee that what I've just said is exactly how it would go, because we are still investigating lots of different partners, and we have other priorities first. But that's high on the agenda. For me, that's actually a more important thing on the agenda, say, than IBAN, But some of my colleagues would disagree. You know, it's not Steve and myself. We have Raphael. We have a whole team of people of product development, and we all have different opinions. But so I'm just giving you my opinion now. So I'm really a big fan of the savings products, but it's not going to launch tomorrow for certain. And if it does, it's not going to be launching with the Celsius competing type numbers. That's just not what we're into. Okay, other questions coming through. I suppose loans is another question that people always ask, and it's popped up on the screen here. We can do loans now. If people followed Crypterium, 12 months ago we could do loans. We were issuing loans 12 months ago in the test period. And we did that classic, let's say, consultant mistake, where we asked people their opinion, and we followed the opinion, and then nobody liked what we did. So we launched loans. We asked everybody, are you interested in loans? Everybody said yes. And when I say everybody, 85% of people said, if you launch a loan program, I would definitely be interested in within a test environment. Then we sent out the loan capability to that test environment, and nobody wanted it. So we have that capability right now, but timing is everything. Maybe we just got the timing wrong last time. So we have it. We've got the capability to do it. Maybe we will put it back into the application. Maybe we won't. This is not a technical issue for us. We have the capability, just nobody really wanted it. And there's no point sticking things inside an application that just makes it more complicated if nobody really wants it. So we have to have a team of people working on this that costs money. And if nobody takes a loan, then of course they cost money and we don't cover that cost. Okay, what else have we got popping up? Exchanges, everybody always asks about exchanges. The exchanges are in a difficult situation now. If you had access to my LinkedIn profile, you would see one exchange writes to me every single day. I get person writing, saying that they represent a new exchange in the Middle East, or they represent a new exchange in India or Japan, it doesn't matter. There are hundreds and hundreds of exchanges out there, all desperately looking for tokens, and we refuse every single one because, first of all, they don't have liquidity, and if they don't have any liquidity, all that means is it's a risk to your token price. And then those exchanges which really do have liquidity, they haven't changed their attitude in terms of the listing of new tokens. They will only list a token if they see a significant volume. And if they don't see a significant volume, they charge a significant fee. Binance, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if there's a Binance person on the screen now who may shout back and say, no, that's not true. But the last time we spoke to Binance, it was close to $2 million to list on Binance. That's not $2 million well spent right now. And if you launch in a flat or a downward market, all you're doing is giving more liquidity for people to sell a token. So if the market has a significant up period, then we have all the connections we need to launch on any exchange. It's just, again, it's a matter of time. So we don't have an immediate expectation to launch on an exchange. And if we do launch on an exchange, you can probably read into that we believe the market is in an upwards period. It's not a matter of we can't get onto the exchanges we can. We don't want to pay the fees for some of the big ones. But the second tier, maybe they're worth paying for in an up market, but we're not in an up market. Okay, yes, we're in an up market compared to 3 months ago, but I don't think anyone would yet say we were in a complete bull market, for example. So there we are with exchanges. Don't expect anything spectacular to happen in that space. I'm just going to run down the side screen, see if there's any other interesting question that we haven't covered. So retail spend transacted by the application versus physical card monthly volume. It's a complicated question which I'm not going to answer in full, but the average person is using our application in the same way that they would use a normal payment card. So we have, Stephen has been a perfect example, we know how much people spend on Visa cards, we know how much people spend on UnionPay cards, we know how many transactions people make in a month. And when people load our card, they're using it in that way. So I'm not going to give you exact numbers about how many times or how much it is, but people use the card, once they've got the card, as though it was a traditional card. Maybe the first couple of months they don't, because they obviously are testing it out and have to feel comfortable. But once they get the hang of it, people are using it like they would normally use a card. Okay, well, we've taken 40 minutes. I always try to keep it to 30 minutes, so my apologies. I know I've probably bored you and Stephen as well. We will try and do this again. One of the reasons why we're doing a joint one is that there's been comments that we don't always see you as a team. And sort of,
I get to do the interesting stuff, regulation and compliance.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get to do the exciting stuff.
I get the sexy stuff.
You product partners.
Yeah,
anyway, but I would like to say one thing, particularly when I look here at who's joined the live stream, which is thank you in particular to all our South American customers in Brazil. What we do see from our comments, our complaints, as well as our customer base, is that we are truly global. So we have customers all around the world, whether it's Central Europe, Australasia, Latin America, and we are very grateful for you to be our global customer base, and grateful to see you on our live stream. So it's something that's really great and gratifying actually to be part of Crypterium and the global company, and why that global card is really important. But,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So roughly this time next month we'll do another one, and we'll try and do it together again.
Yes, happy to do that.
Or if not me and Stephen and someone else, we'll try and do it as a two-man team from now on, rather than as a one-man show. I think it'd be much better. So thank you for everyone. I'm sure this will be posted on our website very shortly. And as always, feel free to reach out on email or on WhatsApp. I think it's not hard to find me on LinkedIn, etc. So if you have something more specific, I might not answer on the day that you send it, as you can imagine, but I always try to read and respond to everything I get. Okay, thank you everybody,
Thank you,
and see you again soon. Bye-bye.